Thank you for watching Missouri Viewpoints, the program dedicated to the civil and informed discussion of the political, social, and economic issues that affect us all. I'm Mike Ferguson, and we're coming to you from downtown Grandview and the Hard Bean Cafe. Now, one of the few aspects of government that directly affects everyone in Missouri is public education, either through having your children in a local public school system or simply by being a taxpayer. Public education is something that affects us all. This week, my guest is Dr. Marge Williams, the Superintendent of Schools for the Hickman Mills School District here in Kansas City. Dr. Williams, thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, there are so many issues to talk about when it comes to public schools, so let's start with one that your district is directly involved in right now, and that's the implications of the No Child Left Behind Act, and specifically the average yearly progress reports associated with it. Now, you're not happy with the Department of Education and Secondary, or Department of Elementary and Secondary Education right now. Why is that?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm not happy with them. I believe that it is unfortunate that based on the federal mandates that come out of No Child Left Behind, that if a school district does not meet the annual yearly progress, they're deemed as being a school district that's an improvement. Now that has a varied and a variety of definitions, because many people confuse that with, well, does that mean that your school is not accredited? What happened to your accreditation? This particular label has nothing to do with the district's accreditation. We still remain our accreditation in the school district. The average daily or average yearly or adequate yearly attendance, all the acronyms that we have, is manifesting through No Child Left Behind. And that's when a subgroup, which they have identified as being a certain number of students in a particular area, does not meet the average gain that goes from year to year.
Okay, so is the problem the confusion over the implementation, or is it the process of tracking progress and implementing progress?
I believe it's some of both. Again, not to be confused that it has nothing to do with the accreditation status that comes from the state of Missouri. Mm-hmm. However, the state has to follow the mandates given by the federal government. In their overview and audit, they thought that they were following the guidelines by identifying those schools that were, before this year, considered to be, needed to be an improvement because they did not meet the gains in a 2-year process. Mm-hmm. However, the federal government indicated that not only do you have to identify the schools, it puts a classification on the school district. So where we thought we were meeting the guidelines, we were told that it's not just that you have one school that may be an improvement, and there are many facets that would allow that to happen. It means that one school could be the undergirding factor that would place all of the schools in the school district with that particular label.
So from the viewpoint of the local school district, from the viewpoint of someone in your position as the superintendent, how should improvement and progress be tracked and measured? I mean, what is fair?
I believe it's fair to look at more assessments, different types of assessments. We have school every day for 174 to 175 days a year, depending on where you are. And it's unfortunate that this is a snapshot of one day. It's also unfortunate that it's a snapshot of one school, and it's a snapshot of one segment of what we do in schools. If there was a way that we could gauge student growth from year to year, with this particular assessment, we are not assessing the same students. We're assessing grade levels, so that makes a difference. For instance, there will be a student who will take the communication arts portion in 3rd grade. In 4th grade, they're not tested in communication arts. They're assessed in math. So we're asking that there's a little bit more familiarity, accountability, consistency with the assessment process so that we can ensure that every student has the opportunity to do their best.
Now, for those who are watching who think maybe this is all semantical and this is political, what are the real-world implications for the school district and for the students if their district gets basically an F report card from the state on this report?
I don't want to paint the picture that there's not a need to worry. I don't want to give false hope because I am not a politician and I don't write policy. As everyone knows, usually money and funding will follow whatever you do when you're receiving dollars from the federal government. But what it does say, and I've had this question many times from parents, is this going to impact my child trying to go to college? Well, I have yet to know of a college or university who have contacted us and said, send me your child MAP scores and we'll make that determination if they're able to enter. Again, it does not impact the accreditation because those are two different issues. The State Department of Education are responsible for, or is responsible for, issuing the accreditation status. No Child Left Behind has its own frameworks where they look at those districts or those schools who are not meeting the progress. What happens if a school district does not make the turnaround and put programs in place? Because once you are deemed, you have 2 years in order to put a school improvement plan in place to try to show some sufficient growth. If that does not occur, then you face the risk of losing federal dollars and having someone to come in to oversee the programs that are being established in your school district. So I guess in essence, the short version of that would be, does it have a long-standing impact for students? I tell parents, every child is different. Every parent is responsible for making sure that your child is garnering as much education as they can while they're in the classrooms. Public education is under attack as we look at all of the accountability standards that are there because different school districts, different children, different educational methods are being utilized to assure that our children are receiving the best services. While we're doing all these many things to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all children, we have one accountability measure that is certainly inequitable and certainly unfair.
Let's talk about the inequitable. We've got a couple minutes left in the program. The Hickman Middle School District is a plaintiff in the lawsuit that challenges the state funding formula for education. Now, the courts recently upheld the formula. Do you foresee this lawsuit being appealed to the state Supreme Court, and do you support that?
I do believe that it will be appealed to the Supreme Court, and yes, I do support it. I believe that if we are in the business and having the responsibility of educating children, we need to have the equitable dollars in order to do that.
Now, people who support the current fund formula say that if you're victorious in the lawsuit, Missouri taxpayers would have to come up with about $1 billion in additional funds, probably through the taxpayers. How do you address that concern that a successful court ruling would cost taxpayers that much more money?
And I'm not sure it would be in the excess of $1 billion. I believe that once we realize what the formula amount is, then we can go back, and if we educate our public of what is needed, I believe people will listen. As it is right now, the formula has never been fully funded. It's never been fully funded in 94-142, which is our special ed fund. I mean, there are a lot of things that the federal government can help us do to rectify this situation, and I believe that when it gets to the taxpayers, that is the last place that it will be before resolution is met. It's not that we're trying to hold people hostage. What we want to say is that allow us to educate the children, educate the masses, educate the areas in where most children attend, and that's the public school setting. We're held by very high standards for giving very few resources to do the jobs that other school districts that are not public school settings are asked to do.
Dr. Williams, thank you for being on the program. I hope you'll come back. There is so much to talk about on this issue. Once again, I want to thank the Hard Bean Cafe for giving us a place to hold this discussions. Be sure to watch Missouri Viewpoints next week. Thanks a lot.